Alrighty, I'm back. So that was just a quick stop, and I probably can be online for another half an hour, maybe, before we start getting into some traffic where I'm just not going to be able to try to talk and navigate. So I hope you guys are able to join me again. We were talking about Sukkot, we were talking about the Israelites leaving and kind of the purposes behind Sukkot. It's the end of season festival. It is a week long, and shalom, shalom. I won't be able to identify y'all by name too because I don't want to lean forward and read everything. Just know I'm happy you're here. Welcome back. We are still talking about Sukkot. Shalom, shalom. You can ask me specific questions and I can answer them in the comments once the video gets uploaded if you have something of really, pressing need. I also would like to say that the Holy Spirit is really moving people as He does around His holidays. I've gotten more people asking me for my email address and having concerns in general, and that's fine. I don't want you all to think that that's an imposition. I think it's just a naturally occurring thing. Shalom, shalom. With these holidays, I want to learn more about Sukkot. Okay, so if you want to learn more about it, read Leviticus 23. That's your first thing to do. And then if you watch my first live one that talks about Sukkot for today, I go into some of the history. And I'm not going to go over that again, but I'll start where I left off, which was the Israelites get into the desert and they set up tents and they hold their first Sukkot. And the festival is the end of the harvest festival. That's what it is. So it's a celebration. You are supposed to be happy. One of the things that is required in the Word talks about on the first day of the holiday, you get branches of goodly trees like willows and palms, and you march around praising the Lord. Which can take more than one form, but a lot of people. One other lady and I, at least, have had that be in the form of like a parade, and often get children and whole families involved in it, where you just walk and praise the Lord. Usually, the way I did it, I would have a destination. We're going to go from this person's house to this person's house, not very far, maybe half a mile, and just, have your branches and praise the Lord. And that can take whatever form you want it to take. Shalom. Now, there were a lot of sacrifices required in the old days. I think it was like on the first day, 14 bulls and so on. But that was if there was a temple and a priesthood. The Aaronic temple, the one that had Moses' brother Aaron as the high priest, was done away with when Yeshua returned and when the Romans destroyed the temple. But Yeshua replaced that priesthood with the Melchizedek priesthood, which is mentioned in the early, if you read the Torah, it's in the Torah. Melchizedek is the Prince of Salem, which would be the Prince of Shalom or the Prince of Peace, who comes to Abraham and the other, I think it's 5 kings versus 4 kings. There's a big battle, and Abraham and the other 4 kings win that battle. And the Prince of Peace, who is also called Melchizedek, comes out and meets those kings, and Abraham gives a tithe to that Prince of Peace. And I think there are some descriptors about him. He has no mother and no father, and a couple of other things. But within the context of Torah, followers give tithes to Yahweh. So if Abraham gives tithes to this Prince of Peace, and I think they call him a high priest too, it has to be Yeshua, because you couldn't have God in a person's form, because no one can look upon God in a form like that and live. And that's also in Torah, when Moses is talking to the Lord and he's like, I want to see you, Lord, and the Lord says, can't work that way. I'll tell you what, you hide in the cleft of this rock here and you'll be able to see the back of me when I walk by, because if you didn't, if you looked on me from the front, it would kill you. His Shekinah glory would be too strong. So Moses' face glows after he sees Yahweh. And people couldn't look upon Moses' face either. It was so bright. But I'm way off topic there. Way off topic. Back to Sukkot. All right, let me try to remember what I was talking about there. And to the season festival. There were offerings required, but those offerings are not required anymore. Your offerings to the Lord, obedience is better than sacrifice, so obedience. And I think it's New Testament that it says your worship and praise are your offerings to the Lord also. So there's just a huge variety. I've said this now 2 or 3 times lately. I've said it in the past too. There's a movie called Ushpuzin. It's Ushpuzin on Netflix. It's set in Israel. It's about a poor man there. I think he might be a rabbi, but I don't know. He's a poor Jewish man, and what he does to celebrate this, and that is their temporary dwelling. And some people have the same one every year, and they dismantle it and store it and then get it out. It's a temporary shelter, and a lot of people sleep in theirs or eat in theirs. Have meals, communal meals with other followers. If you go online and you put in, like to YouTube, and put in Sukkah, there's a lot of videos. People, it looks kind of like a barbecue area in your backyard, and there'll be some kind of poles or structure, and many people will set those little cutesy white light strings around it, or they'll put branches or flowers or other kind of outdoorsy, fallsy decorations on it. The sukkah that I've done in the past had material, and sunflower stalks, and some of the things I canned for that year on the sukkah. We've also done sukkahs where we've just taken green saplings and tied them all together in a kind of shape that people could sit under over top of a picnic table. So if you ate together, you could sit at the picnic table. It's just a variety of things. People put up tents. We put our thing together out of pallets one year. It's just a thing. You kind of get to decide for yourself. And then because it's a week-long festival, we as a congregation, at least in the past, had kind of planned themes for the meals every night or activities every night. And I've heard it's the slew, it's the whatever you decide. I've heard people have done things like performances, had guest musicians come in and sing faith songs together, doing plays, biblical plays together, skits. It's just a huge thing. Bible readings, Bible studies, chili cook-offs. And I've talked about different events that we've done as congregation together. We've gone on hikes, and we've gone to wine tours, and Pastor was trying to tell me, we have a shoot-off on Shofar Mountain every year, and the best shot wins a gift. It's just any variety of things, and usually centers around a cooking area, like a campfire. You can have Torah discussions, just anything. And it's a week long, and there's a high Sabbath on the first day, and there's a high Sabbath on and the 8th day, the great 8th day. And biblically speaking, that great 8th day is more than likely the day that Yeshua was actually born. And Leviticus 23 will have the descriptions in there. On those 2 days, you do no work. You just rest. I think you're allowed to cook food if you need to feed yourself on those days. And then there's usually at least one Sabbath, regular 7th-day Sabbath in the feast. And we gather together on Sukkot on the first day and the 8th day as well, and Pastor does a short sermon. So that should give you just kind of a basic framework, kind of like a sukkah, and then you guys can fill in the details. You are supposed to be social. You are supposed to try to get together with other believers. The whole, go to Sukkot in another state or spend a lot of money to do it is not biblically required of you. You can do this thing in your own yard, and you can invite non-believers too. And Ushpuzin, the people that are coming to sup with this rabbi Jewish person, are criminals. They're not really like a Hasidic Jew showing up. But by showing the kindness and including them in a celebration and sharing food with them and everything, you can bring someone to a better understanding of Yahweh and Yeshua and the way. And it can be a seed that you plant in them. And we've invited people before who are not believers to at least one of the Sukkot meals, so they can just share it and see what it's like with the other believers. And sometimes it impresses them, and sometimes it doesn't. And you'll have to check this again because, details. But I'm pretty sure it says that when you have your the things that you've harvested, that you do invite poor people and you share with them. So it's just that kind of flavor. And then you've got, which is 14 days before Sukkot. So the Feast of Trumpets this year, I believe it's on the dark of the moon. And then 10 days after that is Atonement, where you fast for a whole day. And then 4 days after that is the beginning of Sukkot. And if you follow the conjunction moon, which is, again, a whole nother, I'm not a pastor, so I give you generalities. Go to a pastor to learn the finer points. Conjunction of the moon is the dark of the moon, and that begins the Hebrew month. And the reason that Shofar Mountain does the conjunction is because the Bible starts in darkness. There was darkness and then light. A day starts in darkness. The Hebrew day starts in darkness and goes into the light. And if you reckon your months, your Hebrew months, so that you know which month these holidays come in and on which day they fall, if you reckon it by the conjunction, then every year Sukkot has a full moon in it. Which makes a lot of sense if you're having to travel out of Egypt and you don't have flashlights and you're going into the desert to a new area. Makes sense that you can do that with a full moon to help you find your way. And it's kind of special. It's just kind of awesome when you're out there laying in your temporary dwelling and this huge moon comes over you. It lights everything up. Shalom, people. Shalom, shalom. The conjunction moon makes that happen every year, and it's kind of special. It makes it just a really inspirational holiday, I guess. Okay, so I've gone over it. I've told you where in the Bible to find it. Is there anything else you guys have questions about Sukkot? Let's see. I'll try to see if there's comments. Shalom, shalom. Yep, I heard the first part. Okay, person who heard the first part, I want to learn more about Sukkot. Do you have questions? Google's pride. Shalom. I'm trying to read you all's names, but it's going to be difficult. What are your questions? The lamp keeper. I see you there. Can I celebrate if I don't have the Brit, the what? The Brit Milah? I have no idea what the Brit Milah is, so I would say probably yes, you can celebrate it. We are instructed to keep it as believers. Circumcision. Good question. I believe, and you will be a Berean and check this for yourself, that Sukkot does not have the same requirements on it that Passover does. I think Passover is the only feast day that specifically says if the person has not been circumcised, they cannot celebrate that holiday with you. And again, that's going to be in Leviticus, and maybe in Exodus too. You know, do a Google search, get the verses that are specifically about Sukkot, but I'm almost certain it is not a requirement, and it says that if there are strangers and sojourners within your gates, they can celebrate it with you. That's a really good question. And remember, I'm just a woman in the faith. I'm an older woman, so I'm supposed to do good teachings, but I am not to instruct men on biblical principles and how to do the faith specifically. You have to get that information from a pastor. That's his job. So I'm giving you generalities, and I'm giving you verses so you can go and check it out yourself, because you are the ones who are the instructors in the faith. Passover is the only one that specified anything on the matter. That's what I thought, Orky, Okie, Storm, Chaser. So I would say yes, you can. Acts 14. What about Acts 14? What is your question about Acts 14? That where it says you only have 4 requirements as a beginning believer? Paul and Barnabas traveled to ask about circumcision in that chapter. Okay, and what they're asking about specifically is not whether you can do Sukkot or not. What they're asking in Acts specifically is, do you have to be circumcised before you can be brought into the fold, before you can be considered a believer? And that's why they have that discussion with the other apostles, and they decide that no, you do not have to be circumcised before you can hear the truth about Messiah, before you can hear Torah or any of those things. You do not necessarily need to be circumcised. And it was something that the apostles wanted to enforce. And I think maybe, see, again, a pastor's got to get you guys the finer points of that teaching, but there was within this group of believers, these apostles who had followed Yeshua, a requirement, a belief that people had to be circumcised, because Abraham and his family are the first ones that the Lord requires of circumcision for them to be into following Yahweh. You know, it's one of those agreements. The Lord says, you know, circumcise your whole house, and Abraham and obedience does that. So that's why the Jews thought everyone had to be circumcised to be a Jew. It was a requirement. But now that Peter has his vision, and he and Paul go and talk to non-Jewish people about their faith and about Yeshua, that's why the question arises. And they say, no, you know, this is not a requirement for them to hear the truth and to be taught about who Yeshua is. But it is one of those things that Pastor, I've heard him tell people, eventually you are going to be convicted of it yourself. And there's also things in the New Testament that talk about a circumcision of your heart, and it being kind of parallel with the circumcision of your body, because the circumcision of your heart has to be where you kind of have to, I mean, I don't even know how to phrase this. It's the circumcision of your heart is where your dedication to Yahweh comes, where your willingness to be obedient comes from. So the circumcision of your heart is kind of like a spiritual circumcision where you say, Lord, I'm going to specifically follow you. I'm going to not follow any other teachings. I'm not going to follow other gods. I'm not going to follow traditions of men. I'm simply going to follow you. And that's important because it is, you know, it's not a new way, but it's a new concept in our world, in our culture right now, the way following Yeshua and Yahweh goes. The Jews, again, had the Testament, the Old Testament. They had the laws. They had been keeping those for a long time. But when Yeshua shows up and says he's their Messiah, that's a new thing to them at that time. And it's a new thing to people like Romans or anyone around Jews at the time that Yeshua shows up. His way of salvation and being saved, and you don't have to sacrifice goats and stuff to purify your soul is new. It's a new teaching within that framework of the Jews, but also it's a new teaching to anyone who, you know, is around them. What? The Jews aren't going to be doing that anymore? They've got this Messiah guy and, you know, he's healing and everything else. It's new for them as well. So the circumcision bodily was not a requirement to hear that truth, but eventually, the way Pastor puts it, you will be convicted to dedicate yourself, because it was a sign in those days that you were an Israelite. And I say Jew because they called themselves Jews in Jerusalem at that time. The majority of the people left in Jerusalem when Yeshua shows up are from the tribes of Judah, and I think Benjamin and maybe Manasseh, and the other 10 have been scattered, so nobody knows where they are. So they all just start calling themselves Jews because the majority of the people left were of Judah. Judah was the one whose area was Jerusalem. So that answered that question. All right. Thank you. Progression makes sense. Okay. Shalom, Sister Kate, and all. Shalom, did you feel the earthquake last night? No, we did not. Where was this earthquake? Big Mikey. Where was the earthquake? Okay. Thank you. All right. Palm Garden was travel too. Okay. So we got that taken care of. Any other questions? About Sukkot, just south of Arkansas. No, Mikey, I did not. What are they saying about that earthquake? What was it? What size was it? Was it like a 3.2? Was it a 4? Was it a 2.5? Thanks for the breakdown. You're welcome, but check it out yourself. Okay, you have to be a Berean. I am only allowed to instruct women in things like these biblical points, and a pastor's job is to get the finer points of them. And if you're a Berean, you go read it with your own eyes so you can say, yeah, she said that thing, but she was a little bit off, or this agrees 100% with that pastor said of it also. All of those things have to be in agreement before you can say, yeah, that's a truth. The word has to have said it. The pastor would be teaching it in the same way that the word presents it, and I would be giving you the generalities of it. But the word is where you find out Yep, that's what it says. So I'm giving you my, my experience and my take on it, but that does not mean I'm 100% right. With your own eyes, see it in the Word. Prepare for a harsh winter this year. Is that prep with frost? Lynch. I can't read the last part of Lynch's name. That's what supposedly is coming down. That's what the word is. I don't know if the Farmer's Almanac is saying that, or if tradition is saying that, or weathermen are saying that. I think one should be prepared for winter every year. Not harsh, you're definitely covered. Right? Go to the ant thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. She puts stores away, she gathers food and stuff, so when the cold weather comes, she's ready, and the grasshopper doesn't. Welcome the believer's journey. Is that Wheat Tree Bonsai? Hey, Wheat Tree. Oh my gosh, Pastor talks about that fault line out there all the time. Now I can't think of it. The one that's closer to the Mississippi River. I wonder if they're going to tie that 3A to that, or if they're going to say fracking. Anybody else think it's going to be a bad winter? I found it just north of Bronx. Thank you. I appreciate the Sukkot education. This will be my first. Brother, well, welcome. I'm really glad you're going to keep it. And you and I know mutual people. I'm sure you know Bear, and Bear will be doing it, and so will a lot of the people you've met lately, so that's cool. I don't know how close you are to them, to Bear and Tommy Biscuits, but I would certainly think that you would be welcome at something they did down there. It's going to be a colder and longer winter, okay? Has anybody else heard that? Is anyone else getting ready for that? My own bones say it's going to be harsh, okay? Do you have injuries, or your bones ache, or do your joints ache? How do you know that? Okay, Sugar Creek Homestead, I'm glad I caught you. Sugar Creek, do you have any questions for me? In the beginning part of the video, I gave my general knowledge about Sukkot, so I don't really want to go over it again. We're kind of in the ask the question section, and people are talking about the harsh winter this year. Yes, extensive bone structure damage. Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry you had that happen. So those things ache when the cold weather comes. Is that how that works? Were you in an accident, Wheat Tree Bonsai? Is that how that you got the extensive damage? And Mike, how is your ankle? Yes, yeah. I'm telling you what, people underestimate being in an auto accident. They really do. Now, I've been in several little bump things get smashed. Oop, I guess their face gets smashed on the steering column, and it's supposed to be super, super painful. And I've known people, with the neck injuries and the knee injuries and the EMT training they put me through. You get you get training on what injuries to look for in an auto accident. And one of the things they teach you is the faster the car's going, the more extensive the damage you're going to be looking for. And it's going to be damage, like I said, with people's heads going forward or backwards, with the seatbelt that's across your chest. You can get chest injuries, you can have hip and pelvis and internal injuries from the seatbelt across your lap, your knees hitting the dash, crush injuries if it's really, the car collapses in on itself. It's pretty scary, really, to think about, and we just take it for granted as Americans. Our cars are a part of our life. Our country is so big. necessity of life. Where other smaller countries, you can use the public transportation and walking, and you can get to where you need to go. But when you live in America, this is a big daggone country. We'll be celebrating Sukkot with a traditional Navajo. Oh man. The traditional Navajo shade house this year. It's already 38 degrees at night here in the Four Corners area. Okay, like I don't know that the shelter specifically itself needs to be of any particular type. I just would not try to mix Navajo religion in with the Hebraic, because I think that's the father's, one of his big beefs is that you don't mix your belief with him with any other religious thing. So the shelter's not a problem. I wouldn't do any of the sand painting or the song singing or any of that stuff, because that's a different religion, and he doesn't like mixing those. Praise the Father, it's not broken. Oh, or Okie Storm Chaser, praise the Father, your ankle's not broken. Oh, well, hallelujah, that means a lot faster recovery, and they can give you things like aspirin, and you can wrap it and ice it and all that. It's still a problem, I get it, because when I twisted mine, I had to use the crutches. Terrible. And of course, if you put any weight on it, then it takes a longer time for it to recover. But I'm glad it's not broken. Hallelujah. Yeah, that's good news. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. We don't mix shade houses. We're built to protect from the elements. Right, there you go. Not a problem. I mean, I've seen sukkahs built out of just about whatever you want. You know, people can get very, very elaborate. You know, they include their back deck and a roof over top, and I've seen people put up a basic structure and then put all kinds of greenery across the top of it. Yeah, I think, you know, as long as it serves as your temporary shelter, it can be pretty much anything. Like I said, we use pallets. We just put together a bunch of pallets with screws and all that stuff. We don't follow the tradition of our fathers. Okay. And I think Navajo as a belief system is very interesting. I read all those books. Oh, what's his name? Tony Hillerman wrote all these mystery novels set in the Navajo Nation and the police officers. I think that's a very interesting, fascinating culture. So I don't want you to think I'm a hater. I'm not a hater. I think there's a lot to be studied too. Pastor talks about other belief systems having bits of truth. I think there's probably something for Hebrews to look at in just calming yourself a bit, calming your soul a bit, and having a little restraint. And I think Navajos are that way. They don't always, like when you see each other, no one immediately speaks. You just kind of sit and let yourselves kind of, and then say, hey, what's going on? The true traditions of our fathers line up with the Torah, especially with the feast. Well, and I know there are more than one Native American belief system that have bits of things that the Torah has, and it may be because the Phoenicians probably actually traveled here. Now, I don't know if Israelites traveled here, but I know Phoenicians supposedly did, and Phoenicians were Canaanites, and Canaanites and Israelites were cousins. And so you probably, as a cousin to the Israelites, had talked with your parents and your aunts and uncles about their belief system. And if you came to the Americas, just because you're cousins and you were Canaanite doesn't mean you couldn't keep the Israelite way. You certainly could have. And you could have passed that on to natives that you met here. Or I also know there's that whole theory, and I think there's a decent amount of fact going on in there, that Native Americans could have been one of the 10 tribes that scattered. that DNA coming from, and you'll forgive me if I don't know each and every tribe, but I think the Cherokee have been DNA tested, and that their DNA was more similar to Middle Eastern DNA than some of the people living in the Mideast now, like the Jewish people who say they are, oh my gosh, Ashkenazi, coming from Eastern Europe. Their DNA doesn't match the Middle Easterners, like Palestinians and other Jewish people. Their DNA is more alike with some of the Native American DNA than the Ashkenazis who are from Eastern Europe. I think that's true. The Believer's Journey, what is Sukkot? Sukkot is one of the 7 feasts of the Lord, and you can find it in Leviticus 23. It is one of the end of the year holidays that are prophetic, pointing to Yeshua's return. And Leviticus 23 gets into more detail about it. I am Wampanoag. So Wampanoag was kind of East Coast and more northern, right? Like, you'll forgive me if I'm not perfectly knowledgeable, but maybe Virginia, Pennsylvania area? Am I right about that, the Wampanoags? Journey. I'm welcome, by the way. Massachusetts, there you go. Yeah, and Pastor and I'm really into history. I really love history. There's so much information in history. We were recently looking up the Iroquois nations, and specifically, I believe it was the Seneca tribe, and the history up there, and what was going on in the French and Indian War and the American Revolution and everything. Fascinating information. Loved it. Loved learning all about it. My husband's great-grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee. There's a lot of Cherokee in this area too, and they were, I believe, in like North Carolina, Georgia, Southern Virginia, when I don't know if they were there when the Pilgrims were there, but certainly when the Revolution started to kind of foment. So I guess the late 1600s through the 1700s, the Cherokee were kind of East Coast and Virginia, North Carolina, and getting along okay with the settlers that were coming. But the British, man, the British, even in the time of the Pilgrims, were the ones who were pushing to get more land, and would get in fights. They wanted to trade, and so did the Dutch coming in New York, and they would make deals with certain tribes against other tribes and start the trade stuff and introduce firearms and all that. And it was the British who did the smallpox blankets, and I think that was before the Revolution. Anyway, all that stuff fascinates me. I love learning about it. A lot of our histories were destroyed and rewritten by the Europeans, I'm sure, which is kind of a problem with lots of people who have been conquered. The Romans came and it was before 500 and took over Britain. And I don't know if they erased a lot of British history or if there really wasn't a lot of British history at the time. But the whole thing about King Arthur in England kind of gets lost. There's not a whole lot of writings that cover that period around 500 AD in England. And that's why you get these, in 1100, these French court poets and stuff looking back and writing these fanciful, magical, mystical accounts of King Arthur when he actually probably was a British king, and his mother was British, and his father was a Roman, and she was supposedly like of British, which would have been some sort of pagan. I don't know if they were Norman Saxons then or Pictish or what, but she was some sort of nobility, and supposedly like a queen and actually went into battle and stuff, because in those days that's what nobility and those tribes did. And her Roman husband, Rome leaves England in 500, and I don't remember if Arthur's parents stayed in England or if they went back to Rome. But he's now nobility there, and he gets raised by people in the area. Anyway, I'm off topic. There's a really good book on that. I know I've mentioned it in a video somewhere that talks about him as a real person. But because, yes, conquerors often don't care about the conquered's histories and the conquered peoples getting moved. That whole thing about natives being moved from their tribal lands out to Oklahoma and west is not a new thing. That's what the Greek states did all the time, and that's how you just kind of made sure that whatever city-state you just conquered, they cannot turn around, grow back up, become powerful, and bite you in the behind. And the Spartans did the same thing, and they were Greeks. If they took over some city-state, they enslaved the whole populace and moved them. It's one of those techniques. A lot of Welsh words have Hebraic origin. It just goes to show that we're in all nations. Well, and the 10 tribes get scattered and nobody knows where they are. The Jews in Israel today found those tribes out there in Africa, in Ethiopia, that were keeping Torah. They had menorahs and all kinds of things. And they also think there's I don't remember if it's Burma, Cambodia, if it's Laos or Nepal or where, but there may be some people out there who are also keeping Torah. So who knows if it was the Phoenicians, who were trading, their merchants, they have the ships that can go across oceans and around Africa. If the Canaanites are spreading a bit of it because they're Hebraic cousins, or if the Hebrews themselves, the scattered tribes, wind up in places like Europe or South America, or, there's Sephardic Jews too, who are Spanish, who were in Spain. They were kicked out of somewhere else, I forget which country, and they fled to Spain, and then the Muslims invaded, and so they had to leave Spain. Shalom. Hi, gang. I can't read all y'all's names. I really do apologize, but I wish that print there would be, this big so I could actually see who's there. But shalom, everybody. I'm almost to the end of this thing because I'm getting to where the traffic's going to require my complete attention. But I'll hang in here a little bit longer if anyone has another comment or a question. Lynch Slay. Okay, Lynch Slay. I've seen you on a live stream before, Lynch Slay. Thank you for coming back. And thank you, WeTree, for helping them out. You need an assistant, at least a passenger. Chasing Life says, I have 2 passengers. They're useless. They're back there sleeping. They don't smoke. Which email did you use? Did somebody try to email me? She needs Pastor Joe there. Yes, you have. Yeah, you need secretary with you. Or not to do the things while I'm driving, but I get really bored if I don't have something going on, and I'd rather try to communicate with real people than listen to like a radio show or something. Alright. The Believer's Journey, scroll up the chat, it's there. Check your email. That's right. Questions, comments. One way to follow the migration routes is through ship designs. Well, that's very true. And it's interesting if you study ship designs. The Egyptians had the reed ships when, at the time of Yeshua and when the Israelites are there, and their reed ships really supposedly weren't strong enough to go out into the ocean, and that's why the Phoenicians wound up having Lebanon. That was their part of the Middle East, and so they could cut those huge, tall trees down and build ships that could go across oceans. And then if you look at like Viking ship design, their ships were different from everybody else's. They had, you'll have to forgive me if I don't know every little detail, but like shallower hulls and individual boards, and they could flex, where ships used to be very rigid, and so you could go through waves and things like that. Instead of the ship getting tossed all over, it would just kind of flex and just cut through it. Another thing I saw on a science show showed Viking ships, the design of the ship and also the sail made it so that with increased force, they got faster, that they could go really fast. Sister Kate, I've been able to catch your live stream from time to time. It's been, oh my God, my phone. It's been a while. Been busy getting ready for winter. Yeah, it's the time too. It's the time to get ready. Yves, Torque, and Kate, are you and Pastor Joe an amateur radio operators? No, we are not. We should be. We should be, but we just haven't gone through the time and stuff to get our licenses and things like that. Shalom Sushkate. Hey Matt Kelp, you're coming in on the end. Matt Kelp, there's a part 1 and a part 2, and we were talking about Sukkot, but I'm getting in traffic if you can't tell, and so I'm only going to be on a little bit longer. So watch the things to get the information. Let me know if you decided to get started, and I'll be glad to get you going. Okay, all right. I have the books, and people have shown us the apps too. I just haven't done it. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, I think I'm going to have to sign off. I really do. I just don't feel comfortable with all this traffic around me and not being able to pay 100% attention. I totally appreciate y'all showing up. I think Biddy Boo has a good point in saying that I appreciate each and every one of you all. And please put comments on the video anyway. Yeah, there you go. There's people who are interested. Do it, right? Communicate. Be community together. Share that good information. I love it. Thank you so much, Sheepdog Patriot. I appreciate you guys too. Bless you guys. I'll see you around. Shalom.